Welcome to Warrior, the Art of War for Life, a podcast for those who want to win. Leadership lessons, motivational mindsets, empowering principles, success strategies, and transformational tactics from Sunzi, the master of victory. I'm your guide on the side, David Boyd, award-winning educator, transformational speaker, and certified life coach. It's time to start winning at life. Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm just really glad you guys are here. This is our first video podcast, and I am pleased to have Abigail Manning here today with us to be our first guest in this new segment. This segment is on the warrior mindset, and we're going to do a little bit of boots on the ground, how a lot of this art of war for life applies in real life situations and real life circumstances. And we're going to do this maybe once a month, once every couple of months. I'm going to bring in some guest speakers. We're just going to try it out. So for those of you who have listened to me and never seen me before, hi, I'm David Boyd. I'm your guide on the side here as we walk through this great text. And my guest speaker today is international keynote speaker and amazing storyteller and Marine mom and just inspiration, Abigail Manning, my new friend. We met last year at NCLS, which is the National Character and Leadership Symposium at the Air Force Academy, and just really connected over a lot of shared interests and shared message. And so I've got some great questions for her. I'm going to let her introduce herself a little bit here, and we're going to go from there. So let's go.
Yay! Thank you for having me on your podcast and the first video one. I'm proud of us. We're facing fears and obstacles and things that we didn't necessarily think we'd be doing in our lives. And so I think that's what I stand for. Like, look at things that scare you, have a mindset on how you can rewire that, and empower you to do things you never ever imagined you would do. And if they're small, right, something little like taking an art class maybe, that might be terrifying for some people. If it's starting your own podcast and then starting to videotape yourself, or if it's standing on big stages speaking about things that you never told anybody about 5 years earlier, so that you can be a message of hope and unity and empowerment and choices on how to thrive. So I'm delighted to be here, and I can't wait for your questions.
Great, thank you so much. And we're delighted to have you. I'm so excited to just have you back. One of the things that really got me interested in bringing you on the podcast and then also bringing you into my classroom was your concept of purple threads. And so could you introduce to everybody purple threads, what it is, why it's so important, how it's kind of impacted you, and how that shows up in the warrior mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So Purple, so this is a curriculum that I built based on my academic education at Indiana University on studying cognitive communication and behavioral sciences, but it really came from living in the trenches of life, having grown up with a lot of different types of hardships and experiences in my life, including childhood abuse by both my parents, domestic violence, being thrown in the pit at PTS, being dyslexic, raising 2 kids with a dad who walked out, my husband, when they were 5 and 2, and raising them from the time then as a solo parent, fully responsible, to adults, and they're both Marines, as you mentioned. And so I built curriculum based on what I had to explain it to myself. So purple threads, the reason for purple is a couple, but I'll share the first one. The first one is the color of purple means courage. And it's courage to look within yourself to see what is really happening up here, upstairs, and what's really living in my heart, and how am I showing the world who I am, and is it an authentic alignment to myself? And so the purple is, it's a courageous act to do that versus pretend you're something that you're not. And so the full definition of purple threads is limiting personal thoughts connected to past traumas that become physiologically tied in what we think, say, and do. So cognitive, communication, and behavioral. And then how do we understand that? How do we change it? Stop any kind of limitations that we're putting on ourselves and be able to thrive and move forward through think, say, do skills. So think, say, do skills are then the way you rewire our brain, and then we change the way we show up in the world. And we change the way we allow the world to speak to us, to act with us, to hold us back. And so that's kind of the whole look of it. And it does take a warrior spirit and a warrior mindset in order to have that, because life is hard. There's a lot of hard things in life. And there's a lot of really good things, like when, you know, people get married, or you have babies, or you have a job promotion, or you're buying a new house, or you're graduating from college, or you're transitioning out of the military into a civilian life. Those are all wonderful, great things, but they can be very scary, and they trigger these old past thoughts that we didn't even know we had ruminating in the back of our head. And so I try to work with all different groups of people, from CEOs to special operators to cadets in your class and at other times here at USAFA, on how do you recognize it so we can get rid of them as early on in our life as possible.
Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing that out, because limiting beliefs is a big topic that I address in my podcast, because our beliefs are what create our thinking, and our thinking generates our feelings drive our actions, and our actions to a large extent create our results. And a lot of times we think we want to change something in our life by changing our results and our behaviors, but if we don't have the belief system to support it, it's going to burn out.
Yes.
And so I love that purple is the color of courage. Courage is one of Sunzi's 5 key attributes, essential attributes for general leadership. And in Chinese, courage resonates like the clarion call of a bell. That's the origin and the etymology of the word. And so I really like that. When we face our fears, and when we demonstrate courage, practice courage in our lives by pulling on those purple threads, we subconsciously give everybody else permission to do the same. And I love that.
I want to high five you, but I'm not sure how that comes out on audio.
I don't know. We'll do it anyway.
I love
Watch
that.
the video version.
I love that. And I've been lucky that I've taught this curriculum to thousands of people. And what I love is just now you said something articulated in a different way. And I think you and I have such shared alliances in what we're thinking and sharing and communicating, and hopefully helping people with their own warrior spirit and their own direction in life, but it's said differently. Right? And I know I've had to hear some positive statements over and over and over in my life, and hear them in a little bit of a different language. Now, I don't speak Chinese. So when I sat in your class and everyone was shouting back in Chinese very positive affirmations, I'm like, I don't know, but it feels good. The energy feels good. And that's part of it. Surround yourself with other people who are willing to be courageous. So look to see who in your network is supporting you, lifting you up, encouraging you. You set a goal and helping you continue that momentum towards that behavior. If it's studying Chinese, if it's going to the gym, if it's reaching beyond what you feel comfortable doing, who are the people around you that are supporting you and talking truth, versus who are the people talking smack, or, as we've talked about, finger pointing language?
Yeah, which is a great lead into my next question. I wanted to bring back around. You mentioned this idea of saying the same things, and I just thought, I love pizza, but I don't like the same pizza every time. And sometimes, getting a new take on pizza can be really reinvigorating. And so, your messaging, my messaging, where they overlap, I love the overlaps. I love hearing Tony Robbins say something that I've taught my class, because I feel so validated, right? It's like, yes, that's what I've been saying. I'm not crazy,
Exactly.
But it's true,
Right.
We all need to be on that same stage, because you can reach people that I can't, and I might be able to reach some people, especially if they speak Chinese, that maybe you don't have access to.
Right. And I might represent something coming from trauma and abuse. If someone looks, sounds, feels, acts like somebody who has hurt you, harmed you, an ex-husband, an ex-partner, like whatever, right? Then you throw up these walls. We put up filters. So maybe I'm not for everybody, that's for sure. And so if you don't like my voice, then you can go to somebody else. You can try a different piece of pizza. You can try a different one, right? And I think that's what's beautiful is when we stay open to listening to messages, especially from people we don't identify necessarily with or recognize or think that we're going to have any shared goals or commonalities. One of the things I love in the classes today that you and I taught, people kept saying, wow, they're all kind of the same. We had people write down what their secret unworthiness statement is, what their limiting thought is, and we crumple it up and we open it up and when they know we're going to read it, and at the end of the day they're shocked because they thought they were the only one who felt that way. And you looked around and you're like, I didn't think you'd feel the same way as me. Right? And so that commonality means I can have more empathy for you, you can have more understanding and compassion for me, and we can work around differences so much better and faster, and we can find shared connection and work more efficiently together and happier.
Yeah.
Let's be happier.
Yeah, absolutely. And you touched on empathy, and of course you can't talk about empathy without mentioning Brené Brown and her work. But empathy is actually another one of Sunzi's 5 essential attributes for leadership. And it's getting in touch with our own humanity. It's the ability to relate to another person through our shared humanity. Through the fact that, I don't need to have your shame to recognize that I have my own shame, and I know that feeling of shame and how horrible it is. So the fact that as soon as I know that you've got your shame, I can relate to it without saying it doesn't have to be the same. It's just the fact that we both have shame that we can then not feel so alone in that.
Exactly. And knowing, and so even taking like the word shame, I just say people have their own purple threads, and even the people who look perfect picture perfect, they, as I flip it, being dyslexic, I'm like flipping what I want to say, and what I'm saying is everybody has purple threads. So if I come to you and I meet you and I already know you have some purple threads, right? I can look past what you're doing. I can look past the behavior. Are you antagonistic? Are you angry? Are you withdrawn and sullen and won't look me in the face? I can look past that because I know there's something so much deeper inside of you, and that everyone has a purple thread, at least one. I have yet to meet anybody who doesn't have something rattling in their brain that is counterproductive in their life. And I can come from an authentic perspective of caring about somebody and connection, and then smart people like to figure out what it is versus putting judgment, like, wow, he's a jerk, wow, she's so rude. I can look, then it takes more curiosity and mental gymnastics to try to figure out what the purple thread is, and you do that by asking questions. So where'd you grow up? Tell me about it. You find out those things and you're like, well, I grew up in that same area, I didn't know that about you, or I've never lived in Alaska, tell me more about it. And you find points of connection, even with the people that you don't like, right? And so I teach this in Navy leadership, that the people that you dislike the most, those are the people you have to work the hardest on and find the mental challenge in finding the shared connection. And then making sure you don't use words of like shame and, how could you, and blame, but find how you can lift and elevate.
Yeah, it's we all have those limiting lies, right? Those limiting beliefs, those purple threads, and I love the emphasis on curiosity instead of finger pointing language, and that leads us into the second question. So, when you came last year to USAFA, one of the most impactful things that you said, and I wrote it down in my notes, and I've used it every day of my life since. Is no blame, no shame, no judgment.
Yeah.
Could you tell me a little bit about where that came from? And how you discovered that, articulated that?
Yeah. And before I do, I want to say thank you, because it's hard to say vulnerable. Like, you impacted me. I was not feeling good about myself and you filled me up, right? Like, we have to admit a vulnerability and then we have to share that. And that could be a point where I could ridicule you, I could make fun of you, I could use that as a weapon against you, and that's what I grew up with. Like, don't share because it'll come back to bite you later on. Totally. So you have to be able to know that you're strong enough, and I don't believe those lies anymore, so that if you do, it's okay. I'm good in my own skin. And part of the reason that came to me, the finger pointing language, is my dad was a very volatile person, a strong guy, and when he got upset, he'd get right in your face and he would take his finger and slam you right on your heart with every word he would say.
Wow.
And he would always not say, "What a beautiful, lovely child. You're going to grow up to be somebody someday. I love you, sweet little child." No, it was shame, blame, and judgment. You are stupid. You are not wanted. I wouldn't get mad if you weren't such a da-da-da-da-da, right? And it was always the shame and the blame and the judgment. And when you have that your entire life, especially from both parents, starting from the time you were born, that, forever, it's called gaslighting, and you really believe that to be true. You believe you're the problem. You believe you're never going to make it. You believe you're not smart. You believe no one will like you. You believe you're not wanted here. And that's when we have the choice to decide, are those the lies woven in me, or are those purple threads that I can remove? And the key to this is the brain will believe what you tell it. So if we're looking for confirmation, if I come up to you and I'm defensive or angry or cranky with you, and then you're like, "Yeah, I don't want to talk to her," and walks away, it proves I'm not worthy of someone talking to me. It proves I'm unlikable. Well, no, it doesn't. I'm sending all those messages, stay away, because I don't want you to hurt me, right?
Right.
And because I'm afraid of it. I'm afraid of what's going to happen. But instead, I can own who I am, and then the shame, blame, and judgment I know is not mine to own. So if you came at me, and you attacked with those types of words, literally, then I can say that's his problem. That's his purple threads, it's not mine. Now, if I did mess up and I was supposed to be there at 10 o'clock and it's 10:30 and we missed the train or missed the plane, yeah, it's mine, you're right. I'm not stupid and dumb, I am late, and I do apologize. You can own it versus be combative. And to me, that's how we own our own space. Right? And we don't escalate situations, we can de-escalate it. And you say, "You know what? I've been late before myself." And I say, "Thank you for understanding. My daughter was really sick and I couldn't get anybody to come over fast enough to help me, but my daughter comes first." And then you would say, "Well, of course. Of course." And that's, "Thank you. Thanks for understanding. And the next time you need a favor, I'm going to have more understanding and bandwidth versus he's always late. What's his problem? Why isn't he respecting my time?"
Right. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So the no blame, no shame, no judgment. And that was really impactful to me because I did blame, shame, and judge myself. And it's really interesting. Stephen Covey said, "We see the world not as it is, but as we are, or as we are conditioned to see it." And if we're conditioned to see ourselves as failures in the world, then our brain goes and finds all the proof, right? The confirmation bias comes back. It starts looking for all the evidence of why we're such a screw up, why we're unworthy, why we don't belong. And it for me, it did start with me, right? The things that other people said to me were only hurtful because I already believed them inside.
Yeah.
And so that was a real game changer for me, to be able to raise the awareness and say, okay, that's a blame statement, that's a shaming statement, and that's just flat out judgment, or as I like to say, misjudgment, because every judgment implies a certain amount of misjudgment on our part when we can't see the whole picture of ourselves or anybody else, right? And to be not just our greatest critics, but also our greatest advocates.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. We're way too hard on ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most people. So narcissist, sociopaths, I'm not going to put them in ourselves category because they think they're wonderful, they think they're amazing, they have no ownership over anything, right? And the world is just lucky to witness me. But for the rest of all of us, because they are out there, I know firsthand, but the rest of us, if we could just be kinder to ourselves, not so hard on who we are and what we're doing. We think everybody else has it figured out. We think everybody else looks so great. They look polished, they look professional, they have all of these different certifications or attributes that we aspire to, but their internal dialogue is often very, very, it's more similar than it is dissimilar.
Yeah.
And it's usually something, I'm not enough. And then the moment you can stop that, that's good. And thank you for sharing that. Do you know the root cause to why those shame, blame, and judgment, when you would hear those in your head?
Well, So, I like to say that I have a master's degree, if not a PhD, in self-deception from the School of Hard Knocks, and it's true. I was captain of the people-pleasing club, and I was, captain of the performance-based worth and toxic perfectionism club. Growing up, I learned, because I have a slight disability, I was teased mercilessly in middle school, and one of the things that I learned from that was people will judge you without even knowing who you are based on something. And the way that I compensated for that was through performance. And so, if I can perform well in this athletic event, if I can perform well here or there, then they stop teasing me. But then that becomes a crazy roller coaster.
Yeah.
That you're only as good as your last game.
Yeah.
And even when you hit, even when you make that diving game-winning catch, it's like, well, how do I maintain that? How do I one-up that the next time? Because it's a short life cycle.
Yeah. And if you have someone who's trying to use manipulation and purple threads and weave them into you, they will say, well, you got lucky. You got lucky. Now, if Joe had been there, he wouldn't have had to dive. He would have ran fast enough, caught the ball, and threw the guy out at first as well, right?
Yeah.
So we have to be really careful, and when we know each other's purple threads, we can say those things. We can say, that was really great. You did great. You can help erase those and rewire truth. That's why it's really important when we see people to acknowledge the goodness in them. Because it may be the first time someone says, I really like what you said. That was impactful what you did. It was beautiful watching the way you parented your child. I do that in grocery stores and things like that. And I'll look and I'm like, wow, it's easy to see you're a great parent. That was really lovely. Right? And they're like, oh, no, I'm not. I'm like, no, you are. Yes, you're a great parent. I've raised kids. That was really good. And you can see the mom going from frustration to joy, and the kid going to wait, what's going on? And then they come over and they hug the parent, and it's just this beautiful shift of energy when just minutes before the kid was arguing because the kid wanted a candy bar. I don't know why they put that in the aisles, right? When you're standing there waiting forever to go shopping and check out, and they have all the food and the toys and the candy the kids are going crazy for. And it's amazing how much you can shift it. One, you can see it, and a lot of times we don't. We don't know that we've done it until years later. If this is a year later, you're telling me that, wow, what you said a year ago at NCLS impacted me every single day. That's huge. I didn't know. So you don't know the impact you're making on people watching right now, and that person then going and telling something different to somebody else, right? Sharing what we're talking about. Hey, I want to apply this. I think that's what makes us a better world.
Absolutely. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I talked about this in a recent episode. Talked about the pitfall of futility. And I don't know if you've ever heard the starfish story, but
yes,
I grew up with the starfish story because I grew up on the beach in California.
Okay.
And so every time I saw a starfish, I was thinking, it matters for this one. We can't let the immensity of the problems of this world, discourage us to the point that we don't help the one starfish in front of us.
Yeah. And
that's for a long time I let my problems disqualify me from using my strengths to help other people because of that. Those limiting, those purple threads that were in my mind. And
no more.
Absolutely not. Yeah. And so let's talk about your journey, how you got to purple threads, how you got to no blame, no shame, no judgment. What was it like for you as all of a sudden a single mom, having been through what you've been through? How did you warrior up in that moment and find your why? And could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Mainly to help other people do it better than I did. I did a lot of internal negative dialogue, not good enough, not going to make it. I never believed I could raise kids on my own. Financially, emotionally, physically, spiritually, athletically, academically, I still had a lot of purple threads in my head, and I did a really good job, and I really worked hard. I always did the right thing, and that was exhausting, and I did the right thing the best I could. But I also put everything into the kids, which I think a good parent does, because I came from one extreme, right, the other end, and I didn't want that for my kids. I wanted to stop the cycles, and I wanted to be the good in the world, and I wanted them to go forward and make good decisions. So I had to learn the hard way, like, to teach myself what I was actually teaching my kids about. We do the right thing, and we believe in you, and I love you, and I care about you, and it's okay to make mistakes, and this is our safe haven. Anything said inside this house is our fortress. We are safe here, we are loved here, we can be mad at each other, and that's okay, and that's good. Now tell me more, tell me why, and what can I do? So if we can learn those purple threads, at the end of the day, I did financially do it, right? And I did emotionally do it. And they both achieved a lot of success in the Marine Corps, and their lives are just this beautiful trajectory, continuing to move upward. And I wish that I had learned how to self-identify in me, so I could be kinder to myself and pour on myself what I poured on my kids.
Yeah, that's...
Did that answer the question? I don't know, I got going.
I think so.
Okay.
It was beautiful. What I hear you saying is so much of what you share in Purple Threads, in your work, is really lessons learned down in the trenches.
Yeah.
And,
yeah,
it's not like when we think of, a lot of times when we think of strategy, and we think of art of war, and we think about how do we apply this in life, we think of some general in the Pentagon. But the reality is you figure this out down in the trenches, on the front line. All of a sudden you're on your own.
Yeah.
You've got 2 kids, they're 2 and 5 when this starts, and you're not perfect at that stage. You still have lots of purple threads, and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to pull on this now, and I'm going to say, hey, see this one? Watch out for this one, or whatever it is. And so you taught your kids. I mean, I have a lot of respect for that. My wife is the one that's done almost all of that. My job, with my kids was showing up and playing with them, and I've tried to expand my repertoire a little bit there. What amazing and just hard work at times. And so,
but you know what? It didn't seem hard. Like, it was hard. It was really, really hard. But it was so my mission, my passion, my purpose. It was almost like redemption. Like, they tried to break me. I will not break. I will bend, I will fold, I will buckle, I will lay in the bottom of my closet, I will cry, and then I'm going to stand back up. And I'm going to go back out there, and I'm going to give those little faces what they need. And it was tough love. I wasn't like, oh, you're so wonderful and everything is so great. It was, this is not how we behave. This is not how we treat each other. Here's how I expect you to talk to me. Right? And doors were moved off of bedrooms, and all the drama of raising teenage kids and all that kind of stuff. But it was always, and you are loved and you are safe. And no matter how much you push me away, unlike your dad who ran away, I will not run. I will not run. And I think when you can give that firm of a foundation, you can change lives. The statistics of where my kids should have ended up are far different than the reality of where they did, because I didn't quit. But that was my fuel. So it didn't feel as hard because I was mission driven and I was doing it, right? So I see this like in special operators, when they transition out, they feel like the mission is done, the purpose is done. And it does feel that way. Empty nester exactly felt that way for me, from my perspective. Like, I'm not comparing the two, but just that same commonality.
Right.
Like, my mission is done. I poured everything into this, and they left me. They went on to these great, wonderful lives, and they're not like, yo, Mom, how are you doing? Can I bring you pizza? And then you have to reinvent yourself. And I think that's the cool thing about Purple Threads, is you can reinvent what you keep up here. You can reinvent that, and you can reinvent your purpose and your mission, like I'm doing right now. It doesn't mean it's easy, but anything that's worth doing that's hard is so much more emotionally rewarding and empowering, like self-empowering.
Yeah, that's amazing. You talk about mission and how that really helped you, and the very first thing in the art of war is to figure out, warfare is a big deal. It is this huge endeavor. And applying that into our lives, once we know what our big deal is, what our mission is, things get clearer,
Yeah.
and they get easier.
Yeah.
Because then we have our why, and our why is our way forward.
Yeah.
It allows us, so we talk about the why, that the Tao in Chinese is the vision that a leader has at the crossroads of choice to see and to move in a certain direction.
I like it.
And the imagery is actually of, like, think of an elephant, the matriarch of the herd, or the big buck of a herd of deer or something, and they're just always watching, and they're looking for opportunity and to protect and provide, and that's what you did as a single mom. And
I will say yes and yes, and that was always me as a little kid too. Protect and provide.
Interesting.
I protected other kids. I protected older siblings. I protected that's and that's what my kids do too. They protect.
Yeah.
Like they, and that I think is so purposeful versus it's about me and what about me? And I don't say I'm a survivor. I don't say I'm a victim. I say I experienced those things because I get to choose what I call myself. So I choose to be a thriver. I choose the people around me to believe that they can thrive. We're not like, it's not like a top of the mountain, you get there and you stay there. That's not the goal of thriving. The goal of thriving is to say what has been holding me back and work on it and improve it, right? Or own it, but not put it on somebody else's shoulders. Not put that blame and shame and judgment on somebody else's shoulders. Like, I would have been good if you hadn't, whatever. That boss who didn't promote me. I didn't get a college education handed to me like you did. Right? Forget all that. That doesn't help anybody. That doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's circle back around to your kids. You did this great job of raising them. They went out and they joined the Marines. Mm-hmm. So you are a 2-time Marine mom.
Yep.
And how did that shift the battle, right? Empty nest at home, but you've still got kids out there in harm's way in a lot of cases. How did the battle change for you at that point as you're reinventing yourself, but you've still got kids out there?
Yeah. And they'll always be my kids, right?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
they'll always be like, my kiddos. That was a hard one because you can't protect and you can't provide. Yeah. I can't call up a general and say, hey, I'm concerned over my son and the combat that situation. Could you please send him home? He may be right?
Yeah, I can see that going over
well.
real well.
And my kids know I know people, and they're like, so they'll be like, how did you know that? I'm like, dude, I know. He's like, I'm intel. How do you know that before me? Kind of thing. And so my kids are a little scared. And so they sometimes don't tell me everything that's going on, which is good because I can't protect and provide. So after the fact, after they get out of a dangerous situation, sometimes it's years later, they tell me. And then I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, okay, don't tell me more. Don't tell me more because there's more coming around the corner. But
right.
Then you move into this really hard phase of letting it go and having faith and trust and belief in everything you did. That's why I don't regret the way I parented. So I got up when I was tired. I walked across the room. I stopped the fight. I explained to the kids, even though they turned around, they did it again. Then I explained it to them again and what we need to do. And like in your class today, I literally was like, drop and give me push-ups. And people think I'm kidding, but no, my kids did a lot of push-ups growing up. A lot of push-ups because I figured that took that angst, that energy, that and funneled it in a good way. Right? So we rewired the anger, the mad, the tired, the fatigue, the sad, the anxiety. And even if it's cleaning a toilet, it was about accountability. It was, are you proud of the work you've done? Are you treating each other well? If not, drop and give me 10. If you mouth off at me, you're going to do 25. Oh, you must say something else? I got all day, right? Like, and then you either, as you did in the class, jump down and do it with them, right? Mm-hmm. Or you tell them why. You always explain why, so they understand the bigger purpose and the bigger reason behind the life lesson. And so to me, I had to do that when my kids left. Like, why did I work so hard and raise kids and now they're gone and doing what they're supposed to be doing and I'm sitting here? What is my lesson I have to learn? And it's painful. I've been doing a lot of push-ups. I've been doing a lot of push-ups. But nice. If you keep moving through what I call the swamp, you move through the swamp, pick a direction, take 5 steps, reassess. Do you have new information? Do you not? If not, continue doing 5 more steps. Otherwise, we can wear ourselves out with worry and doubt. Maybe it's this way, maybe it's over here, and do circles, and we'll die in the swamp. No one deserves to live in the swamp, right? But we get lost and confused on our path in life. So pick a direction, keep going, and then all of a sudden one day, it's like, oh, that's what this was leading to. And I have had a couple experiences just this week where I'm like, that's what all those weeks, months, years was leading to this. Like, oh, that's beautiful. It's like a beautiful movie, but you gotta hang on and get through the swamp and all of that. So keep going. Yeah. Keep going.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned the swamp. It reminds me of one of the things that I talk about in my podcast is the idea of managing our mess. And to me, this mess is the acronym: mental, emotional, spiritual, and social. We all come into every situation with a mess. How we're thinking about things, how we're feeling about things, what we believe about things, and what the social ramifications are of whatever we're doing. And yeah, sometimes it's a slog. We need to manage that, or it manages us, and then we get stuck in the swamp for who knows how long. And so...
And manage those thoughts. I should be faster. I shouldn't be in the mess. I shouldn't be stuck in the swamp. What is wrong with me? Everyone else's podcast is taking off and 700,000 million views, right? Like, it's very easy when you're in the swamp. Stress, tired, doubt, overwhelm, anything going on with family, friends, work, it all compiles up on it very quickly if we're not being self-aware and watching it. And that's when doubt and overwhelm and burnout and depression and what I call the adverse cycle spiral happens. So yeah, we're all kind of a mess.
Yeah.
At least I am.
Oh.
Like, at least I am. But the key is get up and keep moving. And it's okay, and be kind. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I think, going back to this idea of the purple threads, right? When we recognize our own purple threads and that it's okay for us to have purple threads, taking out the you shouldn't have that judgment language and the finger pointing, and recognizing that we give everybody else permission to have some purple threads of their own. We give everybody else permission to have the mess and say, you know what, I got some mess.
Yeah.
I'm messy. Humans are messy.
Yeah.
Life is messy. It's a swamp sometimes.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult.
Yeah.
And sometimes all we can do is, take a step. And, we have our why, we have that big deal, we have our mission, and we just take a step towards that. Sometimes all we can do is just put one step in front of the other. I love mountaineering, and we live in Colorado. We've got 58 14,000 foot peaks. And I remember, so I've summited several. I remember one time we was doing Mount Beardstad in Evans, just west of Denver. And so we got to the summit of Beardstad, and it was easy. We hit the top, and it was all of a sudden a huge gust of wind. It was really cold. And so we came down into the saddle to Evans, and it was so cold and windy and hard. And as I got down to the saddle, started going back up to Mount Evans, it was literally, okay, one step, next step, next step. Let's get to that rock. Let's get up to that tree. And, that lesson has stuck with me of, just the slog sometimes of just, we had a goal, but sometimes that goal seems so far away. And the progress seems so slow and incremental. All we can do is focus on the process. And that's where that warrior mindset comes in. How have you seen that play out in your life? You're a two-time entrepreneur. Successful businesswoman. What was that like for you? Where did that battle come in there, and the swamp?
I feel like most of it's in the swamp. It's easy to say, I should be doing better now. I should have completely paid off the mortgage by now. I should have, all that kind of stuff. And so it's a process. And I look at it. So one of the things I wrote on my fridge, I'm a big believer in when I recognize a thought, surrounding myself, telling someone who can help me hold accountable and say, that's your purple thread, or PT, and then you can just it stops an argument. Like if we're starting to lock horns, you can say purple thread. I didn't say that. This is what I was saying. You're like, oh, okay. Yeah, I guess I was defensive. But I feel like that hike, and I love hiking too, and there's been many times I've done hikes where I'm like, why am I so slow? Why is this so hard? Why am I breathing so hard? And then I'm like, okay, you have a pack on, and you've gone through rain, snow, wind, cold. Don't move to Colorado, people. It's an awful state to live in. Go away. Don't come. No, just kidding. And then you look at your altitude, and then I look down, and I can see the little zigzag. I'm like, dang, that was really steep. But when I was going up it, a lot of times I don't give myself what I call grace and space. And so it's still a process. And I'm here to win my own game, my own scorecard, not anybody else's. And I have to remember that. So I put little notes around my house. And so I put one on my fridge that was about one person who says, like what you just said of the beginning of this, is literally worth its weight in gold to me emotionally. So, you know, sometimes it's like, oh, that was very nice. I'm sure he was just being polite. He probably doesn't really mean it. No, why do we do that? So instead I'm rewiring my brain like that was worth his entire body weight in gold. And I just do that with every person who says you've made a difference or this really helped me. I'm like, that body weight in gold. Because we can't take it with us, right? And we do have a beautiful life here in Colorado. I love being outdoors in the nature and all of that. And so my kids are successful. I'm truly happy, right? Is everything perfect? Heck no. And it's a choice on how I see it.
Right.
Do I also have gratitude for things that are coming? Do I use some of the things they do skills, visualization techniques? So like chair flying in the Air Force, or 68 seconds is one that I teach. Do I visualize that success before it's here and have gratitude and excitement and enthusiasm and it's coming, and what do I need to do to make that happen? I need to do one more zigzag, right?
Yeah.
And then just one more after that. And then I can have some water when I get to that rock. And then I can have, you know, a celebration glass of wine when I close one more contract. I just need one more contract, right? And so what is the goal that you want? Because we can get sidetracked in the swamp like, oh, I want money. Oh, I want fame. Oh, I want 600 likes. Oh, I want this. And then at the end of the day, we go to bed and we're sad and we're lonely because we didn't define what is success for us. And I think that is something I learned the hard way in raising my kids, is like, what was success? I was just so dang hard on myself the whole time. And now I can look back with a little bit more space and kindness about my definition of success and am I fulfilling it versus am I not measuring up to so and so and so and so and so and so. Because that's a no-win situation. I want them to elevate me, and I want them to look at me and just say, she elevates me. Like, that's how all boats rise.
Yeah. So, I've covered a lot today. But my favorite question to ask at the end is, going back to this idea of vision, getting clear on your big deal. If you had 2 minutes to tell everybody in the world one thing, what would it be?
So wrapping all this up in our conversation, kind of what I would say after today is, I would say my family oath. Many people don't have a family oath. It's something I created because I wanted it. What do we stand for? Who are we? What is our guiding light? Like, what are the bumpers playing bowling, right? So mine was, I treat others and myself with love, respect, and kindness. And I first started with, I treat others with love, respect, and kindness. And it was many years I had that. And then I realized I need, the hardest person for me to treat with love, respect, and kindness is myself. And not having those limiting thoughts. Like, you know, I wasn't like mean, you know, to myself and abusing myself or anything like that. But the internal dialogue was not of a friend. It was not of a companion. It was not of someone who loves me. So I had to show that to my kids because I saw that in my kids, that they were doing it for everybody else and not for themselves too. So I think that would be my message to the world, is do some hard, deep self-actualization. Look at Maslow's hierarchy, look at the work that you're doing, look at purple threads. The ultimate goal of this is self-love, because if I have self-love and I treat myself with respect and kindness, that means it's emanating to everybody else. That it means it's the energy in what I think, it's what I say, it's what I do. I role model it, I give permission to other people to treat themselves with love, respect, and kindness, and that is our normal. So people know I teach monthly Wounded Warrior Project. A virtual class for the last 2.5 years, and so one person on there is always like very, very angry, and they know, like, I have anger, I have anger and I've used it as my fuel. I've changed school district policy when they mess with my kids, I'll tell you that. And those are my parameters. I will bend over backwards to figure out what is at the root of that anger and that meanness. And it's made the most strongest allies out of people that I can, not everybody, and that's okay. But if we can do that and role model how to treat yourself and others with love, respect, and kindness, that would be my wish.
Amazing. Last question.
Okay.
How can people get in touch with you?
Oh, that's an easy one. Thank you. So Abigail G. Manning. You need the G in there, or you get Peyton Manning's sister-in-law. So, so AbigailGManning.com. Abigail at AbigailGManning.com. LinkedIn, I do more on LinkedIn. I'm on some social media, but help my numbers bump up a little bit if you want people. And otherwise, maybe in the show notes you can add some.
Yeah, I'll leave the contact information in the show notes. Okay, thank you so much, guys. Please let me know what you think. This is the first time we've ever done anything like this. I know so many amazing people who have really embodied the warrior mindset and have been through some really hard things, but have come through the other side as an example of courage, of compassion. And so let me know what you think about this. If you want more of these, I would love your feedback. And until then, as I always say, always remember the power to win resides within.
Oh, I like it.
There's always a way. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening, everybody. If you found this podcast impactful, please like and subscribe, and join us for new episodes every Warrior Wednesday. For more information, tools, and resources to help you in your daily battles, for questions or to work with me, shoot me an email at artofwarforlife@gmail.com. Most important, always remember the power to win resides within. There is always a way.